Hello, everyone. It's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here, along with Ben, with another Bensday.
Hello.
Ben, it was a wild week last week.
It was. It was a blur. I think I'm on like day 18 or 19 of straight work still, so I'm looking forward to this weekend. But gosh, CitizenCon was incredible, and it was so great to see everybody and just see how much bigger the community is than we ever expected. I mean, you were part of it. You were volunteering. You were in all the bar citizens. You were just part of that. Yeah, there was that sense. I remember going to DragonCon when I was a teenager, when I'm 20-something, with my Wing Commander buddies. And at the end of the weekend, you would always be like, oh my God, I want this to go on forever. I didn't have enough time. I needed to be with these people more. And it wasn't about seeing panels or spaceships or doing anything. It was just being part of that glow. And this was the first Star Citizen event that had that effect on me.
Yeah, first event ever that had that effect on me. I never realized how hard it was to work the event before. I still have not recovered, and I'm still seeing pictures of me being tweeted that I'm like, really? That was me? When was I doing that? So
yeah, you guys work so hard, and we can't ever thank you enough.
Yeah, well, you can, but then you'd have to ask Toast what's appropriate. No, the volunteer group, what Ben's talking about is a volunteer group. What was it, like 20 to 24 of us? There was...
Yeah, somewhere around there.
The most amazing people. I mean, you're all the most amazing people. I've probably touched every single one of you online, but those volunteers, the dedication, and if you don't understand how much work it was meetings on Saturday. It was 4 bar citizens, which sounds like it's fun, but it was work too.
Yes, people do not understand that.
Yeah.
It is incredible to go to Bar Citizen, and I mean, you guys had to set everything up. It was just for me going there and being treated like a mini celebrity. It's so weird, but it's also exhausting. You leave at like midnight thinking, oh man, I wish I could have talked to DJ Knight more. I wish I could have talked to Batgirl more. Oh, I only saw Dan Giesling for 5 seconds, that sort of thing. But you're also dead tired.
Oh, God, yeah. Dead tired is the word. And the Sunday, which I know you guys get there a little bit later, but the volunteers showed up at 7.
Yes, you guys understand. That's all.
And we were still going at 2 a.m. in the bar. It was the longest I've worked in a long time, and I've worked many Black Fridays for Apple.
For what?
For I could say it. I just mentioned it for a second. For Apple, it was amazing because I never had that much energy, and it was being siphoned from the people that were there, and I just want to say thank you to everyone because there was an opportunity. I got to work the line outside, which I thought was the most rewarding experience I've ever had inside the Star Citizen community because they were sitting there not until 2 o'clock, but until a little bit after 3. It was an extra hour they sat outside in that hot sun. And I ran up and down that line, not bringing a box with me, but bringing each person, bringing as many waters as my arms could hold. And I'm Amazonian, so I could hold 10 or 12, but handing them out to people so I could touch them and see them and hear what they said. And even with it going over, those people are so dedicated. They're so wonderful. They were so... And I feel like my life was enriched meeting each and every one of you. And I wish I could say it was just one individual because there were amazing people like Lady Nighthawk that just made me feel special. Yeah.
Baby cute.
Yes. She just made me feel so special with her going, I can't believe I'm talking to you, and hugging me every time I passed her. And then
they are so nice.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah, and then I bumped into her parents, I think they were, with baby Nighthawk, and that was wonderful. But there was more. I mean...
So many.
Yeah.
It was more... And I wish we could bottle this. I wish we could take this personal spirit and send it out to everybody who is part of the community. It really is incredible.
So, you guys had a different presentation than you planned. Yes.
We had been hoping to do the vertical slice for Squadron. They worked on it up until that weekend, and Chris decided it wasn't what we wanted to show, so we adapted the presentation.
Now, you know how I feel about release dates. My my feeling on release dates are you guys giving release dates and giving any kind of a expectation is crazy because the game's still in alpha. So that's the way I feel about them. But it was said at one point that we'd have Squadron 42 for Christmas. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to make it out for this year.
So you have two big events in Europe next year. Do we see you going to PAX East this year? Yeah, next year?
We're talking about that now. I think coming off of CitizenCon and TwitchCon the week before, and we want to do more events this next year. I don't know if it'll be PAX East or certainly DragonCon, PAX South in January. There's all sorts of options we're talking about.
I look at those like those early ones, maybe the one in January or maybe the one in March as being a more realistic time period to start displaying stuff for for Squadron 42.
Well, that's outside my pay grade.
Yeah, okay.
When marketing's ready, they're ready.
Well, I tried to lead him into that, folks. Sorry, Ben. Well, I mean, it would make sense. I'm going to say, let's hope it happens.
No, I mean, it's the great thing about this project is that Chris has the ability to say, no, it needs to be better. Let's take more time, which must be an insanely difficult decision for him to make. I can't imagine the kind of responsibility on his shoulders there, but I'm crazy proud that I work for someone who would make that call, because it's very rare to have the leeway and the desire to, rush now, cut features, whatever, and you can make a whole bunch of money for yourself. And saying no to that is powerful to me.
And it's a tough decision because in most cases, a delay of a game might cost you some business. But here in CIG, you guys, you announce a delay of probably what's going to be the best space title ever, and you make $3 to $4 million in the week.
Well, I never like thinking about the money. I'm constantly honored by the fact that folks continue to support us, but I think it just speaks to the fact that our community understands what we're doing. They believe in us, and they're going to stick with us, which is a warm and fuzzy feeling.
All right. As a realist, we have to think about the money on the outside because we know you have over 300 employees now, and that's a huge payroll. So you guys got to make the money to pay the people that are working on our game. That's the basics. So early on in Star Citizen, you made a bunch of stretch goals, and a lot of the time that people were talking to Chris about this, when do you see this implemented? Take procedural planets, which was the big part of the demo this past weekend or last past weekend. That was supposed to come much later on after the game came out.
Yeah, I mean, what a great example of how crowdfunding is amazing right there. We had a stretch goal for, I forget what level it was, but it was to create a procedural R&D team to try to figure out some of that technology. And boy, did we ever. What a good investment that was.
Yeah. Is that Brian and the group in Frankfurt?
Yeah, that's the group in Frankfurt. They are just incredible.
So answer it this way. Those pieces and those breakthroughs, the epiphanies, the eurekas, whatever they are, how much have they led to the game being delayed a little bit as you look at this technology and say, oh my God, I want to put this in now?
It's a difficult thing to think of. Stepping a little bit outside the question, like, do I think we could have released a worse game earlier? I don't know the answer to that question. There's still lots of challenges that are perfectly ordinary that we still would be fighting with. I think the real answer to that question is I would never want to work for the company that made that decision, that said, this is good enough. I
can't agree more, because I work for a company that never says that. I love that. So
have you looked at messaging?
Okay, that's going over the top, okay? I can make my statements, but you can't put me on you can't put me on trial.
No, I make fun of this, but I am a huge fan of Apple.
Oh, cool. I can make mentions like that, but that's as far as we go. We got to keep the Scott Manley approach to it, where people know he works there, and you could talk to him about Siri, but we don't go any further. So I'm very excited about different pieces of the pie starting to come together. 2.6, I'm confused, and it seems like some of my viewers are confused. Are there going to be NPCs in 2.6?
2.6 for the Star Marine stuff, yes. So like combat.
But we're not going to see them in Port Olisar or...
No, 2.6 is focusing on Star Marine and Arena Commander. So you're going to see a more polished Arena Commander, a more polished Star Marine, these outside game modes. So there'll certainly be updates to Port Olisar. We're going to have a couple of new ships go in, including the Herald and the Hoplite. But the big deal is going to be the extra focus on the modules.
Okay, so those two modules, which are where we spend most of our time these days right now, is in Arena Commander, with the frame rates being so bogged down by netcode right now in the PU. With 3.0 coming out in, let's say 3.0 comes out January, February, right? Because we know if we don't have 2.6 right now, I'm not going to hold you to a December release of 3.0. It seems like at that point, because we're getting bigger ships, we're getting more of the mechanics built into the game, that not only the character generator, but NPC characters are going to become more important.
Yeah, bye. Tony's big thing for these incremental 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 is to introduce a new career to each one, and each of those careers will involve NPC interaction in some way. So we're kind of building the spider one leg at a time, which is not a real expression. I just made it up.
Okay, building the spine one. We got to get this right. It's like Knight Rider had some... No, it wasn't Knight Rider. It was Kinshadow was trying to start a new toast, and I think it was Clear 6. And that was the toast.
New toast? I like one we already have.
Stephen Cam for the win. All right, well, I'm asking this question because people are going to continuously send me the same question. And what's the difference between a NPC character that I could go up to and purchase at some point, or not purchase, hire at some point, and the character slots that I have right now? Are my character slots better trained? That's going to be the question.
I got to leave all that to Tony. I just don't have much visibility on it.
And after talking to Tony this past weekend, that answer will take him about 45 minutes to an hour. That's not a show.
Yeah.
That's more like write it down.
No, I don't want to promise anything about NPCs or go into any detail that hasn't been vetted through them yet. I know we have all sorts of things in the works, but not my call to.
All right. Okay, so I asked this question, I think I did, to you in the office when you showed me the Polaris stuff. And I said, people can ask this question. Remember when we were looking at that page with the items on it? So this is from...
remember my own last name at this point.
Yeah, I could only remember... See, I think we saw each other each night at Bar Citizen, but like with 1 million people around both of us, right?
Yeah, and I remember before I was like, "Oh, I'll see Batgirl all the time. We can do interview in the
office." We did nothing. I showed up and I was like, "I just want to shake your hand and leave." You brought me in. You let me see the Polaris 3 hours before everybody else. Big deal, But I pointed out the fact that in the brochure, which I love this brochure, there is a page with stuff on it. That stuff.
Yes.
Okay, guess what people want? I told you this. I said if you put that on there, people are going to demand. So I'm going to use 9v3 or 9.5.3. She said, can we buy this stuff? And I have an answer from you, and I have an answer from Allie. Your answer was, we'll wait and see what the feedback is. The feedback is everybody's been asking me. They tweeted it to me. They asked me in these questions. And Allie's answer was, we could always take a poll. I think that's what she said. But we were at a Bar Citizen, and I had drank a lot that night. So I think she said something about a poll. So can we have this stuff?
Sure, why not? No, we are looking at doing the shirt at the very least.
The model.
I think ship models like that are going to be a little bit later. If there is any justice in the universe, and I've come to believe there is, we will get to a point where we can do fancy ship models. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, you just need somebody with a really good 3D printer in the back office, and that's all they do.
Actually, somebody sent me some offers. I got so many cool gifts from folks this weekend. Somebody had some Wing Commander models 3D printed. If I can reach them through my desk. Check. It's incredible what this technology is like. This is a 3D printed Drolfy.
Oh, that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, and it's not painted or anything. They just 3D print it in color with all the markings, and it's super cool.
All right, please. One here too, and a rapier.
Oh, a rapier? I've got one of those. Oh!
That stinks. Hey, wait, that looks a lot like a gladius.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so we all know that we love other sci-fi genres. I mean, there's a lot of people that are Star Trek, a lot of people that are Star Wars, and they would fight each other. Some people like both. But when I heard... I
consider myself sci-curious. I like both.
That's me too. When I thought of this Corvette...
That was terrible.
It was all right. You can make as many bad jokes as you want. So when I thought of this Corvette, I originally thought Defiant. And I think you guys nailed what I was thinking about when you started designing, or when Foundry 42 started designing and creating that, the Polaris. Do you know if there's how much influence would something like the Defiant have had on the Polaris?
Interesting. Somebody asked me that question on Twitter this morning. I don't think the Defiant itself was a particular influence, but I think they both share a common ancestor, which would be like World War II destroyer escorts, more cheaply made, tough little ships that they could put right out into battle while the Navy was still taking its time building cruisers and aircraft carriers. The Defiant, Defiant just seems so unique to me. It's not necessarily a traditional warship. I almost think of it like a Civil War ironclad or something. Because it doesn't really fit into the line of battle the way our Corvette does, and it's full of all sorts of Trek magic. But yeah, there's definitely a shared ancestor there.
Okay, that's awesome, and I guess I just see it as being the Defiant being one of those small kick-ass ships, and this is a lot bigger than what I expected it to be. So that's great. I love that you nailed that.
Is it definitely a small kick-ass ship? I don't know if. The lore for the Defiant is that it was this super weapons program they developed to fight the Borg, and it ended up being too unstable, and they gave it to Captain Sisko. So that seems a little bit different than us. It's much more bespoke. I don't know if that's the right word or not.
So maybe the Defiant sounds more like something that Silas Coherner would make over at Consolidated Outland.
I don't know. I think he might be more of a space hippie. I don't know.
Yeah. So
maybe it's a Delta, but I see him making something family-friendly next.
Family-friendly? You just changed what you told me the last time. You're making me very confused. One time you said they might make something that's a competitor to the Freelancer, or that was in the lore. Then when I was there last time, you said, no, I see them making more a competitor to the Constellation. Now you're saying family-friendly?
I view the Constellation as more of a family ship, honestly.
Okay, so same line.
Yeah, it's Jupiter 2E, sort of a thing.
Okay.
Either that or a new bike.
A new bike. Don't do that. You got to land one place or the other. I love my Delta, but evidently it got melted so I could get the Carrier Air Wing pack. I got to thank you. I don't know who thought that up, if it was you and Sandy and others or somebody else. You thought that up? The wing packs? You have made it so much easier for people that want multiple ships to purchase them. There's a savings of over $300 in that package. You started that with the Terrapin and the Carrack package, which had a big savings in it.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I know you're not doing it because you always say it's not about the money, but that's kind of a give back to people that are, looking at how do I get this ship? And they're staring at a whole bunch of ships like myself. And because of that, I was able to get the package instead of just the ship.
Yeah, we want to have ways for people to get ships. It's the idea of selling ships is never the most ideal situation. In a perfect world, we would make ships and give them to everybody, and that would be the entire thing. But we absolutely need to bring in money to fund the game, and so we do things like the Polaris pre-sale or the packs where you get a discount, and we try to at least give you the tools so you can melt your ships and move things around and get what you want. But yeah.
Well, there was a scare in the forums about a week or so ago about melting going away. Could you address that?
No, that was a poorly worded CS response. Melting is not going away anytime soon. I do foresee a point someday in the future, and I can't say when the game is done and we say, okay, once we've had the last wipe, essentially, there will be some point along the way where it's not that melting is going away, but you'll be asked to start your ship in the universe, and then it will be locked in. But that's kind of a natural part of growing up. It's not anything we're doing for marketing or sales reasons. It's just at some point we're going to go from selling spaceships on the website to selling them in the game, and that will be wonderful. But it's not anytime.
So who would be working on the kind of like that in-game auction house or a galactic, I guess it would be like a Craigslist type of thing, because I have a Constellation. I no longer want it because now there's a Constellation version 3 out and I want to buy it. What do you have a team already working on something like that?
Well, that's going to take two parts. One of them will be something you saw at CitizenCon, Spectrum, which is being developed by the amazing folks up at Foundry 40. That's not what it's called at all.
It's called Turbulent.
It's called Turbulent.
Yeah.
The amazing folks up at Turbulent. We have amazing folks everywhere. I get confused.
Yes, it's okay.
The fantastic Turbulence have been working very, very diligently on Spectrum. And, I know when you first hear it, maybe it's not the most exciting thing in the world. Like, oh, it's chat and communication and whatever. But, it's our version of introducing a web browser or something. It's connective tissue that's going to tie the game together in many, many important ways.
I actually am very excited about it because I run an organization and a show, and it gives me opportunity to have both of those in one space.
So a lot of the guts for the internal game, the internal communication system in the game will be part of Spectrum. We also have folks in Austin who are working on actual stores, interface, the game client side of all that, which will, and they'll get together and there'll be peanut butter and chocolate, and it'll be a whole universe.
Awesome. I know that we talked before that Dumper's Depot is going to be a place where we could trade or sell or buy parts for a ship. So this is just another piece of that we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we premiered some of that tech with the very simple clothes shopping. People see that and they're like, "Oh, why are you making a bunch of T-shirts?" That's not exciting, but it's also the prototype for how we're going to sell spaceships and how we move that data around, and also character customization. So we do these things very methodically, even if it seems like a small thing. It's still introducing it's the foothold for a much bigger thing.
Awesome, and I can't wait for that much bigger thing. I guess this brings us to a couple of other questions, and it's about other elements that are being added into the game soon. With 3.0, we're going to be able to take out our Ursa rover and go explore some of the planets that we'll be landing on. Yes. Do you know if there's any cargo space on those rovers? That is from Greg on Twitter.
My recollection is there's not like a SCU cargo space in this rover, and that we've talked about doing more of like a rover pickup truck for moving pallets around. Let me just check Confluence and see if there's a rating for it, because I think right now it's just like marine suits, small packages, that sort of thing. But we are looking at a whole bunch of different rover options that we can build in the same chassis. we obviously have I can't think and talk at the same time. Sorry. We have the luxury one coming. So we've designed it from sort of a modular perspective from the development side, where we can make some other rovers that we need.
So we're talking about the Lynx. The luxury model, the Lynx. Okay.
Yeah, the Lynx.
All right. So I think that's wonderful, because I actually watched Mark Aburn's show, I guess it was last night, about how they were trying to blow off the wheel. That was pretty good.
Yes, it just floats away.
If I'm skipping over your questions about the Polaris, folks, it's because they released the first Q&A, and the second one will be coming up tomorrow. So I'm going to ask him some questions about the Polaris, but I'm not going to ask him all, because I want to see what the devs say before I start throwing them to Ben. And I usually want to give Ben a couple of days about questions like that, so if he doesn't know, he can get to the devs.
Okay, I'm wrong about the cargo. At least I'm wrong about the cargo today. The Ursa rover currently has 4 SCU of cargo. That may change completely, but that's what's in our wiki right now.
Awesome. Currently, we see that we can hold a Saber, or we can hold a Hornet, or some other comparably sized ship.
Yes, the single-engine fighters, which don't actually have a single engine. It's just so you classify them.
Okay, so this is just me leading you into hopefully a... never mind, I'm just going to go with it. So, does that mean it will be able to hold a Prowler?
No. No, the Prowler's really wide.
It's really wide. Terrapin will fit in there, though.
Maybe. I am not mad this Jared.
All right, it's the same length as a Hornet, but I know it's about as wide with the wings extended of those two.
I mean, I feel like it would clump in there, but I know better than to guarantee anything will fit into anything else. Okay. That's a hard learned lesson I've gained throughout life.
That's going to be a bunch of videos when the Polaris comes out next year. So I got you to mention something about the Prowler. We don't see it anywhere on any of the lists of ships that are coming out. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, the list of ships you saw coming out are all ships coming ready in that patch of the game. So the concept schedule is a little different and was not on those. But we've got 7 or 8 concept ships in the works. The Prowler is probably the one that's farthest along.
Plus, according to some of the unnamed sources that I can't give up, you have ships that you haven't told us about that you're going to be showing us and putting on concept this year. Next year.
They're not this year, next year. Yeah. We've got a range of ships for next year.
No more votes.
We'll bring back votes for some things. We had a couple ideas I wanted to do, and some things backers wanted, and obviously a bunch of things Chris wanted. So we came up with a nice slate for next year.
Okay. So you know what my goal was at the conference. I talked to at least 7 people, including Aaron. And mine is a hard push for a variant of the Starfarer. What did I say I wanted to do?
The beer one, right?
The microbrewery. Now, I've got buy-in from Aaron if he remembers a thing from that night.
Oh, he will remember. He's Aaron's a man who knows how to drink.
I've got Brian Chambers on my side, who said he would do a show with me every now and then, which is great. I love you, Brian. That is wonderful. But even Forrest, which I know will never remember anything from that night, because he was just enamored by the big hug he gave me. And more. No. But I think that this is, after seeing how much drinking Star Citizens do, I think a nice little microbrewery orbiting around Goss would be wonderful. You know? All right, so we have just a couple more here, and I want to touch base on one piece of confusion that it looks like I threw into some of the forums.
You know what, though? They added a brewery to the Enterprise for those new Star Trek movies, and people were not happy about that. So,
well, this isn't being added to a ship. This is a ship dedicated to brewing. So you have an Endeavor where they're growing the wheat and all that stuff, and then you have this.
Did you ever play Privateer 2?
Yes. Privateer the Darkening.
Yeah, do you remember the...
I've got it up here
religion?
somewhere.
The beer-themed religion?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Really. Imagine...
Yeah, so going back to Aaron Roberts.
Wait, so let's go back to Aaron Roberts. Okay, he was like the one involved with that. So
that was his project.
So we got to clear up two things, and then we could go, and we will save a lot more questions for next week, because I want to close this out right with giving you guys a little bit more information. I'm going to put Ben on the spot for two things right now. Ben?
155 meters.
No, we know that. We know that. First one. We kind of confused people over a 2-week span with two different shows talking about Hurricane, Lightning, and Hornet.
Hey, we really confused people about a lot of things.
I know. We are going to rein it in, and I'm going to ask you the question specifically. Okay, right. Two questions. We know what the role of the Hornet is. Mm-hmm. Okay, we cross the roles of the other two somehow. What is the role of the Lightning? Is it still a heavy fighter?
Yes. It's still the next Hornet. It's the, if you play Strike Commander, it's the F-22. If you play Wing Commander, it's the Rapier. If you play Wing Commander 3, it's the Excalibur, and so on. Maybe not as OP as the Excalibur, but it's the next generation of military fighter.
So end all be all for people in the military not making it to the what do they call it? The militia, whatever.
Militia mobilization thing.
Yeah, militia
mobilization. We're still not doing like the military version of the Hornet or the super high-tech military stuff that's on the front lines.
Yeah, we're not moving that to us. Hurricane, older or newer design? In the lore, it was older. You made it sound like it was newer. Which one is it?
I've never heard of the Hurricane. I'm sorry.
Are you playing with me now? You admitted something to the Hurricane on the show. Folks, wait a second. Let me see if I can find my pen. We got to flash them.
We will serve no ship before it's time. You'll be learning about the Hurricane later.
All right. So, whatever was said on the show about the Hurricane, you have to erase from your mind, because I got a lot of feedback coming in.
People are being loud over there.
That's fine. So whatever you heard about the Hurricane, folks, just erase it. That is not actually in stone at this point, and we'll come back to that later. All right, we cleared up those two. Carrick was put on the list a couple of patches out. I think it's the last patch, right? 3.3?
For the Explorer patch, yeah.
3.3. All right, so Carrick, this is just something that I don't know if it's going to make it into the Q&A. Carrick is listed as being modular and having a bay like a med bay. When we're looking at something like the Polaris, is it as modular, and being a ship that looks like it has to travel great distances, will it also have modules like a med bay?
No modules right now, focusing on just the base Polaris. I can see in my head how it would work. You could maybe slot things into that bay on top, but no formal plan to do that. The designers have not worked anything out like that.
Okay, and the last question in that Polaris group, it seems that there would be a lot of room in the hangar should you need to, in a bind, use the Polaris as a cargo ship. Could you use the hangar along with maybe an Argo when you get somewhere to use it for cargo storage?
Yeah. I mean, that's true of any empty space in the ship.
So that would increase its usable cargo space above what it says it is right now in the specs.
I would have to check the specs and see what they're including in the cargo space first. I can't math that one right here.
All right. Now, two things that I'm doing, folks. You have been amazing and have pushed my numbers up a lot. This is going to be a long-running contest that I hope takes place between now and just before Christmas. So Ben could give us a blank to give away. I told you I was going to put you on the spot.
Yeah. What was the last ship we did?
The 5 dragonflies that we never gave away.
No.
Folks, by the way, if you won one of those dragonflies, starcitizenaa@gmail.com. I have to resend Ben all your information. He was sick and dying at the time. Let's get them back to him. I am so sorry.
No, that was. Let's do a Prospector.
We did an Endeavor before that, and that was for 3K.
that was Allie heading me a note that I'm needed over there. So.
All right, good. We're done after this.
All right.
All right, guys, we're going to leave Ben alone, and we're going to let him tell me. I'll put it in the show notes down below. All right, Ben? Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No worries.
You always give me good stuff. I will talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. I'm going to still go. You just walk away from your camera, and I'll end the call. All right, bye. Bye, bye, bye. All right, folks, with Ben moving out of the picture, we also have 2 more things to announce. SofieGrl and myself and Eden Star will be doing a new show starting on Friday. I think we're going with the name Light-speed Lunatics. And if you were in our room, you'd understand that. Second thing is, thank you very much, everybody. You can... Ben, you could just mute it. Just click the mute button. Thank you very much, everybody. You have made me amazingly happy with all the support that you gave me, and I'm going to be bringing back starcitizenaa. Was going to do it this week, but I have so much school stuff to do because I was away. But starting with Tuesday of next week, that show will return. And with that said, you all be safe out there, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.